Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another live session here at ODA Class. I hope you all remember me. My name is Mitali Joshi, and I am an English master teacher here at ODA. Today, I will be teaching you about the bits and pieces of a sentence. Let's talk about what that means. Let's talk about the parts of a sentence. And then I will teach you the most important concept that you have to keep in mind when putting together a sentence. So let's start off with what exactly is a sentence. So I'm sure you know this, students. A sentence is a group of words that expresses a complete thought. So what does that mean? It means that these words are put together in a way that they convey the entire meaning that needs to be conveyed. Let's take a few very simple examples. We have I like coffee, and we have he opened the door. So I'm sure you know that different words that are in this sentence have different meanings and also a different purpose in the sentence. So let's talk about these. Starting off with one of the most obvious ones, which is the subject of the sentence. So the subject of the sentence is the doer of the action. So whatever action is being performed in the sentence, the subject is the one that is performing this action. So the subject usually answers the question who or what. Now, because this sentence is about the subject, right, which is why the question being answered is who or what is performing this action. So let's take our previous examples and try to figure out the subject in these sentences. We have I like coffee. Here, our subject will be I, because I am the one that is performing this action of liking coffee. Next, we have he opened the door. If you look at I like coffee, try to figure out from that same logic what would be the subject in this second sentence. He opened the door. So our subject here will be he, because he is the one that is performing the action of opening the door. So if we have the subject, which is what the sentence is about, what about the rest of the sentence? I want you all to first identify the subject in this sentence. Ram and Rani speak English when they are at work. I want you to figure out what is the subject in this sentence. Who is the one performing the action? That's Ram and Rani. So Ram and Rani, two people that are performing the action of speaking in English when they are at work. Now, like I said, let's move on to the rest of the sentence. So the subject is the one performing the action. The rest of the sentence is called the predicate. So the predicate is the description of the subject. Now, you might be a little bit confused by this meaning. So let's take one more. It is also the action that is being performed by the subject. So remember, performer of the action is the subject. The rest of the sentence is the predicate. The predicate has the action that is being performed in the sentence, and the predicate starts from the very first verb in the sentence. So let's once again take this example. Ram and Rani speak English when they are at work. So we already have our subject, which is Ram and Rani, correct? That is the people who are performing this action. The rest of the sentence, speak English when they are at work. All of this is going to be our predicate. And students, if you notice, it starts with the first verb in the sentence, which is speak. Now, everyone knows how much I love food. Think about it, students. What will be the predicate in this sentence? While you figure out the predicate, take a second to think about what the subject will be as well. So we have our subject, which is everyone, correct? Which leaves, knows how much I love food. This entire thing is going to be our predicate. Once again, notice that it starts with the very first verb in the sentence, which is knows. Now, one last example for now. A lot of people attended the show. So here, once again, our subject is pretty obvious. A lot of people, which leaves attended the show to be our predicate. Once again, starting with the very first verb in the sentence. Now, I keep saying verb, so I hope you all remember, students, what exactly a verb is. So, verbs are simply action words. So, anything like dance, smile, laugh, move, all of these words are going to be verbs. So, what does the verb do in the sentence? It shows what the subject is doing or feeling. So, students, doing or feeling brings us to an important point about verbs, which is that verbs are action words, but these actions can be physical in nature, in which case we are doing some kind of an action, or they could be mental in nature as well, in which case we are feeling something, right? It could be thinking, it could be feeling an emotion. So, all of these are still going to be verbs. Now, we already took this example earlier. Ram and Rani speak English when they are at work. You have to identify the verb. So simply think about what is the action being performed in this sentence. The action being performed is speaking. So identifying the verb in a sentence is usually a very easy thing to do. Read the sentence and try to figure out what action is being performed. Once again, let's take this example. Everyone knows how much I love food. So, students, here, I want you to notice that we actually have two verbs in the sentence. And a lot of my students often get confused. Ma'am, why is love not the verb of the part of the sentence here? Students, we have knows, which is the verb here, but how much I love food, that whole phrase is going to be one thing together. I will teach you in just 1 second what that is called. But for now, I want you to focus on the fact that the action being performed in this sentence, right? We know that everyone is our subject here. And what action is everyone performing? It's knowing how much I love food, which is why here knows is our primary verb. Once again, here, a lot of people attended the show. So, fairly simple here to identify our verb attended. Now, you might be wondering, we have our subject, right? A lot of people. And the rest of it is the predicate. If the first part of the predicate is the verb, what about the show? What part of the sentence is the show? Let's tell you. It's called the object. Now we have our subject and we have our predicate. But the predicate itself has two parts. We have the verb, which is the action being performed, and then we have our object. So the object is the expression that completes the meaning of the verb. Once again, you might be a little bit confused what this means. So let me tell you. It is the person or the thing that is affected by the action of the subject. Okay, let's take an example to understand this. Ram and Rani speak English when they are at work. So we have our, subject here, Ram and Rani. We have our verb here, which is speak. So in this case, this entire thing, English when they are at work, all of it will be our object. Now, in a later video, I will tell you what are the parts of this as well, because Ram and Rani speak English. Just that one part makes sense on its own. So that could be a sentence as well. Ram and Rani speak English. So what about when they are at work? I will tell you very soon in another video. But for now, we can take one more example. Everyone knows how much I love food. So remember, students, we identified our verb here, which is knows, right? And I also told you how much I love food, right? Is the second part of the predicate. Now, this entire thing is going to be our object. How much I love food. So the quantity of my love for food is our object in this sentence. That is what everybody knows. So you understand how that is what is being affected by the action of the subject, which is everyone. Now, one last example. A lot of people attended the show, right? We have our subject, a lot of people. We have our verb, attended. which leaves the show to be our object. Once again, you notice how our object is being affected, or it is telling us more about the action being performed by our subject. So now, students, let's recap all of the parts of the sentence. We have learned about the subject, which is the performer of the action, right? It's usually the beginning of the sentence. And the rest of the sentence is the predicate. The predicate itself has two parts. We have our verb, which is the action being performed, and then we have our object, which is the person or the thing that is affected by the action of the subject. Now I'm going to tell you the most important concept that you have to keep in mind when putting together these parts of a sentence. Let's take an example to understand why it's important. She loved chocolates. Students, I want you to identify if this sentence is grammatically correct. She loved chocolates. Read this out to yourself once again and tell me, does this make sense? She loved chocolates. Now, this is grammatically incorrect, but what about this? She loves chocolates. Students, do you think this one is grammatically correct? She loves chocolates. This is grammatically correct, which brings us to our concept. This concept called the subject-verb agreement. Okay? So what this says is that singular subject must have singular verbs and plural subjects must have plural verbs. Now, I'm going to give you a few examples and three most important rules that will help you put these sentences together while keeping track of subject-verb agreement. And lastly, I will also share with you one trick that will help you check or identify if your subject and your verb are in agreement in your sentence. You were invited to come to the party. Students, can you identify if this sentence is grammatically correct? You were invited to come to the party. So, notice here, you and were, okay? That's our subject, and this is our verb. So here we have, you always takes a plural verb. You will always take a plural verb. Now, you might be wondering why that is. Students, think about it. If I were to say, you were invited to come to the party, can you figure out if I am talking to one person or many people? Simply our subject, which is you, is not indicative of whether it is singular or plural, which is why you will always take a plural verb. Let's take one more example to understand this. You sing so well. You sing so well. Once again, if you notice, our verb here is in the plural form. Sing is the plural form. Sings is going to be a singular form. For example, if I am talking about one person, right? He sings so well, but you sing so well. So that's our first rule, students, and it's very important. So I want you to remember this. You always takes a plural verb. Let's move on to our second rule now. May and Harry is reading novels. Do you think that this is grammatically correct, my dear students? May and Harry is reading novels. First, let's identify our subject here. May and Harry. And our verb is. Notice, students, that May and Harry, two people, which means that our subject is plural, but our verb here is singular. Is used when we are talking about a singular subject. So notice here, singular subjects joined by the word and take the plural form of the verb. Students, if you're wondering what and is, we have done that in a previous video on conjunctions. So you can go back and watch that. But for now, let's focus on this. Singular subjects, when joined by the word and, will always take a plural verb. So let's take one more example to understand this. Alice and her mother bake delicious cookies. Once again, let's first identify our subject here. We have Alice and her mother. Let's identify the verb, which is bake. Once again, students, notice that our verb, which is bake, is in the plural form because our subject, Alice and her mother, two people, is also plural. Which brings us to our third rule. 2 years are a long time to wait. Students, do you think this is grammatically correct? This is one of the trickier concepts here, one of the trickier rules when it comes to subject-verb agreement. But think about it. 2 years are a long time to wait. This is the fault in this sentence, right? Because expressions of time and money are always singular, which is why here, instead of are, to make this sentence grammatically correct, we will say is. 2 years is a long time to wait. So expressions of time and money are always singular. Let's take one more example. 1,000 rupees was returned back to the owner. So 1,000 rupees, this entire thing is our subject. Now, because it is an expression of money, we will be using the singular form of the verb, which is was. Okay, students, so we have done 3 important rules when it comes to subject-verb agreement. Now, like I said, I will tell you a simple trick that will help you identify, check whether your subject and your verb are in agreement. Now, this works for most verbs, but not all of them. Here we have, if the subject is singular, then your verb should have an S at the end. So remember earlier we talked about bake and we talked about sing. If I'm talking about a singular subject, he sings so well. So notice my subject is singular and my verb has an S at the end. Alice and her mother, two. Subject is plural. Bake delicious cookies. So my verb does not have an S at the end. So if the subject is plural, the verb does not have an S at the end. Now, like I said, this works for most verbs, but not all. It doesn't work when it comes to irregular verbs like to be. But as far as regular verbs go, to check whether or not your subject and verb are in agreement, you can use this trick. If your subject is singular, your verb should have an S at the end. Subject is plural, it should not have an S at the end. Now that you have this trick, what I want you to do is solve a few questions with me. I want you to fill in the blank here. Sham, that he can score well in the upcoming test. What do you think goes in this blank here? Do you think I should put know, knows, knowing, or is knowing? There is only one correct answer here, students. Think about it. We know the subject here is Sham, right? This is a singular subject. It's one person, it's one boy. So tell me, which verb fits into this blank perfectly? Singular subject, so our verb should have an S at the end. Our answer will be knows. Sham knows that he can score well in the upcoming test. Let's take one more question now. Do you blank Pokemon cards? Students, here I want you to remember, our rules as well. Think about the rules and think about the trick. Both together, combine those two concepts to figure out which verb fits into this blank the best. Do you blank Pokemon cards? So the answer here will be option B, collect. Because remember, students, according to our rule, you always takes the plural verb, which is why we say collect and not collects. If I was talking about a third person, does he collect Pokemon cards? Okay, he blank his room every week. What do you think is going to be the correct answer here? He blank his room every week. So our answer here is cleans. We have our subject, which is he, singular subject. So our verb here will have an S at the end. He cleans his room every week. Let's take one more question. Mathematics blank, John's favorite subject. Students, I hope it's yours as well, along with English and science and everything. But tell me, mathematics blank, John's favorite subject. What do you think is going to be the correct verb for this sentence? Notice here, students, our subject is mathematics, singular, which means that we will use is. So this brings us back to the irregular verbs I was talking about, right? To be. We do not have to worry about the S at the end in this situation because to be takes a different form for every subject. So mathematics is John's favorite subject. Let's take one last example for now. 100 rupees blank, a lot of money for some people. Once again, students, keep in mind our rules when you answer this question. 100 rupees blank, a lot of money for some people. So remember that expressions of time and money are always singular. So 100 rupees, which is our subject, is a lot of money for some people. Okay, now students, we have done 5 questions and I want you all to keep practicing more and more. But for now, let's come back to a quick summary of today's lesson. Firstly, we learned about the parts of a sentence, right? We learned that the sentence has 2 main parts, the subject and the predicate. So the subject is the performer of the action. The subject is what the entire sentence is about. And the predicate is the rest of the sentence. The predicate itself is divided into 2 parts. Firstly, we have our verb, which is the action word. Our predicate always starts with the first verb in the sentence. And secondly, we have our object, which is the person or the thing that is affected by the action of the subject. And we learned the most important concept that you have to keep in mind when putting together these parts of a sentence, right? This concept is called the subject verb agreement. And it says that the subject and the verb of the sentence must always agree with each other. What does that mean? It means that a singular subject must take the singular form of the verb, and a plural subject should take the plural form of the verb. Now, students, I know you've had so much fun learning with me and answering all my questions. And if you want to continue this, let me tell you about ODA Class. We have received the most innovative EdTech award, and we are focused on providing the best service to our students so that they can learn. And for this, we have curated a course specially for you. It's called the Bridge Course, which is starting on this upcoming Monday. Now, in the Bridge Course, we have 1 week of classes from Monday to Saturday. So you will have 6 classes, of which you will have 3 maths as well as 3 science. And not only do you get to learn with amazing teachers like myself and so many others, but you also have a personal teacher. So this teacher is going to be responsible for keeping track of your progress. They will be able to see how you are scoring in the homeworks and in the quizzes that we provide to you in the class. And students, in addition to all of this, of course, you will have homeworks on the app, which is expected when you are learning, and you will have tests as well. So we have homework, we have tests, both of which will be tracked by your personal teachers. And lastly, you will also have books that are provided to you so that you can do extra practice. Like I said earlier, students, practice is what you need when you are learning. So if you want to solve questions, if you want to learn a little bit extra than that was taught in the class, you can refer to these books and that will help you out. So students, those of you who are ready now, you can click on the link in the description box to enroll for our Bridge course. Like I said, it's a week-long course and you are getting to enroll for just rupees 29. And students, you also get coins, which is also one of my favorite parts about these classes. So you get coins for answering questions correctly. You get points, you get coins for also attending class, for coming to class on time. So our focus here is not only to teach you, but also help you build amazing habits. Now, students, if you have enjoyed this video, you can like and share this video and also subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss the rest of the videos that we are going to be conducting. And like I said, I will be teaching you lots more about a sentence and also even lots of English that is new to you and that will help you communicate very well with your peers and with people around you. So thank you all, students, and I hope to see you